Welcome everyone, Questini here with a discussion about Ultimate General American Revolution. And to talk about one of the things that this game does so brilliantly in comparison to the Total War series by Creative Assembly. How it far outclasses anything Creative Assembly has done over many, many years. And this game is certainly the legacy of Total War, specifically Total War Empire. How is that? Well, there was a certain modder by the name of Nick Fomandus, also known as Darth Vader. He made the Darth mod, which was a very popular mod for Empire Total War, until he had a major falling out with Creative Assembly over the fact that Creative Assembly did not invite him at a major modding summit. He was pretty pissed about that. He then got hired by a company, Game Labs, and went on to develop certain games. Ultimate General Gettysburg, Civil War, and from that came Age of Sail as a game. Now, what those games did, what Gettysburg, Civil War, and Age of Sail did, is they laid the foundations for this particular title, all from a modding project for Total War Empire. And what you had in Gettysburg, you had the Battle of Gettysburg. What you had in Civil War, you had the land battles of the American Civil War. And in Age of Sail, you had naval battles in the American Revolution and the Napoleonic War. Probably Napoleon is the next game they're going to develop after this, several years down the line. Now, I've been waiting for this game for, 6 years now. Now, to be clear, there are issues with this title, and there are issues. I have significant problems with the way this company has handled this early access, because right now what we have is effectively a beta for an early access that costs $50. And yes, there are some major problems with their handling of that. Though I will have to give enormous praise to developers for the fact that they have been releasing patch after patch in a matter of days. And we're talking here major patches as well, adding features, fixing bugs, small bugs, major bugs. Like when the game came out, on the day the game came out, I couldn't play any kind of land battle in the game, in the campaign, except like the scripted Battle of Concord, which wasn't a great situation. They fixed that in a day. So certainly the developers are putting in a lot of effort. Imagine a Total War game where we didn't have to wait a year plus to fix some minor issues. Imagine that situation. Certainly this doesn't have the same kind of graphical fidelity at Total War, but you can really see a huge amount of effort that the developers have put in this game. Like, we're looking at a game that is really the product of many years of work from developer to reach the point where they can do this. They made the land battles first, then they made the naval battles, and now they're making the campaign map. And this is really the first game to potentially challenge Total War's dominance, as it were. We'll see how things go for Creative Assembly. Now, what I really like over here is the fact that we have the way land battles are handled, or battles in general are handled. With naval battles, if you take your fleet against an enemy fleet, you'll be able to enter a battle. The way the auto-resolve is handled, like, yeah, units will clash against each other, like in here they're clashing in melee. I've got more units coming in. I can even take the units from Boston to join the fray. But what I really like about this particular system is, unlike the turn-based dynamic that you have in Total War, which causes all kinds of issues, right? Unlike the turn-based dynamic, is because you're both you and the AI are simultaneously taking actions, and because you can bring in reinforcements, like you can let units just stare at each other on the campaign map until you feel confident enough to attack. Or same with AI, like the AI might just withdraw from a fight without losing its army, as opposed to like the battles of annihilation that we have in Total War. Though, to be clear, you do want to seek out battles of annihilation over here in this campaign if you're going to win against the British in Boston as early as I have. Though you don't necessarily need to be as aggressive as I have been, but it can certainly be very, very rewarding to do so. So I really like this system. Like, basically, when you have a general, because you do need a general for land battles, when you have a general near an area where units are clashing, and if there's enough units, because there is a limit, you won't have battles like 500 men versus 50, for instance. You get the ability of engaging in a battle. You get this red square where the units in a red square will immediately enter battle. Everything in yellow will enter the battle as reinforcements from the direction they're in. So, for instance, this unit here, this regiment, will come in from behind this unit. This unit will be facing the British over here in melee, and they actually will start right next to each other as well if I were to start this battle. I'm not going to do so because loading screen, but you get the idea. So that's great. That's a great system. But that's not what I want to talk about here. what I want to talk about is research. Now, the way research is handled, it's called projects in this game. And it's done by the various departments and the headquarters. So you have the headquarters of the colonies over here, for instance, the Continental Congress, if you will. And you have various departments. You'll start with Commander-in-Chief, and you unlock Intelligence, Artillery, Quartermaster, Chief Engineer. Now, you have various benefits for these departments. I won't get into them, but yeah, you want to get these departments sorted out as quickly as possible. But what is significant when we're talking about here is you have global research. Now, global research or global projects can also include things like critical resources that might be lacking. So, for instance, what you're seeing here is low ranks of officers or low-ranking officers. Basically, every unit on the campaign map is a regiment. Every regiment has a commanding officer. But every regiment is made up of multiple companies. The number of companies depends on research. Like, there is a limit. Let me see if I have one. So you can get up to 6 companies in a regiment, artillery companies, skirmisher companies, cavalry as you unlock them. But each of those companies needs a low-ranking commanding officers, lieutenants, captains, all that. That is what this particular project would do. So I'm just going to assign it over there. But what's great about the research over here in this game is everything, like you can research multiple things at the same time. Now, you can do this in Empire, but the difference is military gets researched by the Commander-in-Chief. Intelligence handles intelligence research. Artillery handles artillery types, production, all that. Quartermaster handles supplies. Chief Engineer handles like material productions, things like lumber mills, materials, all that kind of stuff. And I don't have the Department of the Navy or the Chief of the Navy just yet, but obviously the Naval Department would handle naval production. So ship types, unlocking different ship types, all that would be done through there. So this is great because it helps solve one of the significant issues that you do have in the research tree in every Total War game that's had it, from Empire, but especially in Shogun 2. So one of the problems in Shogun 2 in particular is you always want to go down a certain path because there's always going to be research that's better than others. And so this applies to this game as well. So what that means is a lot of like the civil research or naval research in Shogun 2, as an example, you just don't bother with that because it's a far lower priority than what you have in terms of land battles. Like your economy, like if you can't win battles, it doesn't matter how good your economy or your navy is. And that applies in every Total War game and certainly applies in this game as well. So you need to improve your combat strength. Well, you obviously will research to improve your combat strength in land battles. Like over here, I'm unlocking the Continental Army, which will unlock proper line infantry. Right, so far, I've basically been using militia with some fusiliers that I got for free from the game as I've been playing the campaign. But that's how things are handled with respect to this. This already is great because it means you avoid the situation like, say, in Fall of Samurai, where you just don't give a shit about unlocking ironclads because you never need them to win a campaign. And that kind of problem exists for the AI. The AI will very rarely get the proper fleet in Fall of Samurai because, well, they also have other priorities that they'd rather focus on. Of course, mods can help with that, to be sure, but the fact that you have this ability to research multiple things at the same time in different areas, and you can't just research military stuff with your Chief of Intelligence, makes for a significantly better research tree. Now, when we're talking about research, the way unit recruitment is handled in this game, it's not like in Total War, where, like, with Total War research, like in Shogun 2, I'm going to use that as an example. In Shogun 2, you'd unlock a building that would then give you a unit, and then you would have unit abilities. The way it's handled here, you unlock units and buildings for research, but you don't need buildings for units. You need guns for units, and you need the research completed. So that in itself also eliminates one of the problems we've had with research tree in a lot of Total War games that we've had over the years. Minus like Warhammer 3, but yeah, in Warhammer 3 you still need structures. So you need to deal with the growth system. Here, you need the research. You also need the production for those units. And by production, you need the guns. For ships, you need the ships. You need the cannons for those ships. You need ammo supply. And you need to produce them. So it's not like you just unlock units and you can instantly recruit them. No, you still need to produce them. You need manpower. You need officers. Like if I'm recruiting a unit, I need to go over here, create a regiment, select an officer for that regiment, all that. I don't have ship production unlocked just yet because the Navy is not unlocked at this particular point. I don't have that department. So that's already great. But you might say, well, it's not necessarily all that different than, say, Warhammer 3. Oh, but it is. It is in a very significant fashion. See, research can be completed instantly using a strategic resource called reputation. So over here, if I use 72 reputation, instead of waiting 72 days, which is the measurement of time, so like this is how a day goes, like this bar over here. Like once that day ends, after spending that 72 reputation, then I will unlock the Fusiliers and I'll unlock the Continental Army. And then I can start researching other things as well. Now, instant research is certainly something Total War has toyed with in certain games. Like we have it in Pharaoh, for instance. Like it's something you can use in Pharaoh. Not so fast, however, because this is what really sets apart Ultimate General American Revolution from Total War and many other games that have come out before. See, while you have to spend reputation on research to be competitive in a campaign, you can't just sit on a mountain of reputation and just let it build up. You need to do it. You need generals at the very least. Like you want these generals. You need multiple generals, multiple leaders leading armies. You need as many good troops as possible. You need buildings. And you can't wait for months on end to just build that up for regular research. You can with certain things, but a lot of things, they will require you to spend it. How you balance that out is going to be one of the most crucial aspects of your entire campaign. Reputation is gained through battles, through events, through completing objectives. So for instance, I have an objective here in less than 3 months to take Fort Ticonderoga. I'm here. I've got 1,000 British troops. I need to march over here from multiple fortified locations to take it. Now, that's not the problem, believe it or not. The problem is I can't just ignore the coastline because the British, they have naval supremacy at this point in time. And they are also going to send in reinforcements from Britain. All of London will soon be afloat. So I'm on the clock because once Britain lands with 20,000 troops at New York and I haven't secured my position in the United States, it's game over, more or less. That is a very important point that needs to be made. You can't ignore the strategic situation. You can't just rush aggressively without consequences, because if you do, you'll leave a lot of territory undefended and you'll end up losing the campaign. Reputation is a strategic resource. If you run out of it, you don't go in a deficit. You lose the campaign. Simple as that. You'll be removed as Commander-in-Chief, lose the campaign, thrown into the defeat screen. Imagine losing a campaign past turn 20 in a Total War game. Unless you've screwed up majorly in the early game, it's impossible. Because you might lose your entire empire, but it is basically impossible. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Warhammer 3, artillery, anything like that. It might be a slow grinding war of attrition, but you can't lose. All you can do is prolong how long it takes for you to win. Whereas here, you're against the clock. You're against the clock because if you give the strategic initiative to the enemy, you will lose. If you don't complete objectives, you'll lose reputation, and you'll be removed as Commander-in-Chief. If you don't get research, the enemy will just end up outmaneuvering you, having better troops, dominating the campaign map. So that is something you need to care about. What this system does, between forcing you to spend reputation, complete objectives, and try and hold on to as much territory as possible, and also forcing you to not just care about like one army being a doom stack that can wipe out everything in its path, but everything you control. Like over here, I have quite a few troops. I can't just take all of them and throw them at Ticonderoga. Well, I could, until the British land with 10,000 soldiers and wipe the floor with me, or they send 5,000 soldiers at Boston and wipe with me, because those reinforcements, they're coming. That's something to mention. Things will not necessarily go the way you want them to. Handling an endgame situation has always been tricky in strategy games. A lot of people have advocated, give the AI cheats or create really frustrating endgame scenarios. This system of reputation, research, having to spend it on resources is a fantastic system. It worked very well in Civil War. It worked well in Age of Sail. Because again, you had to spend reputation to even compete with AI. But if you lost some critical battles, or in Civil War, if you lost any major battle, you would lose the campaign. So this really pressured you as a player to becoming better, to improving your gameplay style, to not just playing a campaign as you might in a Total War game, on any difficulty where it's really the early game that matters. No, the entire game matters. And winning a campaign in their previous games has felt incredibly satisfying if we're thinking about Civil War or Age of Sail. Like, it really adds weight to a campaign that just flat out doesn't exist in a Total War game. Because you can't just win, oh, I won a battle, I can recover my troops easily. You can, but losing troops will affect your reputation and also your total manpower, but that's not what's important. What is important is how it affects your reputation. Basically, Congress is not going to let you screw up continuously. And if you're playing the British, once they become available, Parliament is not going to let you screw up. And that is really what is very, very significant about these kind of things. What actually matters in a campaign. That kind of dynamic is what has set Ultimate General apart as a series for quite a few years now, and is what will set this game apart compared to virtually every Total War game that has come out. And it's a lesson to be learned by Creative Assembly. A campaign isn't challenging because we have to go into the Realms of Chaos to get the fucking soul, or because we have to fight the final battle. Because you can win a campaign in Realms of Chaos in the Vortex campaign with just one army. Here you have to fight a war, a multi-front war across land and sea, and you have to care about everything. What about the British? Won't their campaign just be a cakewalk? Well, against the colonists? Sure. Except the fact that, well, the colonists can replenish their troops pretty easily. The population supports them after all. The British can't. And I imagine the British campaign will focus a lot on winning the loyalty of the people, turning them to your side, and also trying to prevent the French and Spanish from demolishing them, and particularly the French, because the French are coming for the British. See, Britain at this time was in debt. Its economy was struggling. One of the main reasons behind the American Revolution is due to the fact that Britain didn't have money. They wanted to tax the colonists. The colonists were like, no. That, among many other things, of course, right? But Britain had also made a lot of enemies around the world by this stage that were eager to jump on the chance to teach them a lesson, so to speak. And that's one of the dilemmas Britain has. It has a lot of power against the colonists, against France, Spain, and the colonists at the same time. Things are going to be complicated. And you can't just sit on your ass, just turtle it up in the coastal cities. You'll lose the war with that. And similar as America, you can't just let the British do whatever they want. You'll lose the war with that. And it makes for a much better campaign dynamic. You have to spend the resources. You have to get the resources. You have to spend the resources to stay relevant, to stay competitive, or you'll lose. If you screw up, you'll lose everything. And it's a much better system than being wiped out in a campaign because you lost all your territory. You will lose a campaign long before you lose all your armies and territories. And that's what makes this game stand apart, I think. That's all really I had to say. Now, before I conclude this, let me go back to the point about where I stand on the title right now. It's a beta version of an early access. And I find it particularly scummy, I'm going to say it bluntly, that they ask $50 for people to play it. Like what? We're playing for the privilege to being a beta tester for an early access version? No, I don't think that's fine at all. And I will criticize them for it quite heavily. I will also criticize them for a lot of the bugs and glitches. Now, I'll give them a lot of praise for taking a considerable effort to improve things, fix things, add features as quickly as they have. It's been, what, a week? And they've added a lot of things in this time, and they fixed a lot of things. The pricing remains a problem. The policy there remains a problem. And if people aren't willing to criticize companies, even for games that they want, even for games that they may have waited for over half a decade, because I've been waiting for this game for just as long as anyone else. I've been waiting for this game for 6 years. I've been waiting for any game to challenge the supremacy of Total War for a very, very long time, like many other people. And this game can do it, but not with decisions like that. That's where I stand on that issue, and why I stand by the video that I made when this game launched, where I criticized them for this and the broken nature of the game. I do hope they can improve it, but I am way past the point of trusting any video game developer that they will do it unless they're pressured to do it. Why do you think Creative Assembly and Total War have gotten away? Why do you think CA has done so much bullshit? Why do you think EA? Why do you think Ubisoft? Because they keep getting away with it. The moment people stop getting them away with that, the moment people stop criticizing those because they dare criticize their God-given companies and actually take a stand, or at least allow other people to criticize. Like, if you don't have an issue with these kind of problems, that's your choice. But just because someone is criticizing a company for a game that you like does not mean they're wrong. That's my stance on it. Like, if someone doesn't care about the problem, that's one thing. No one has to care about something. But I do have an issue with those people that go after the critics, because that is like genuinely infuriating. Like, there have been games over the years that I have thoroughly enjoyed, and I didn't see the same problems that other people did. But the critics, that doesn't mean the critics of those games are wrong necessarily. And that's all I had to say. Questine here, signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more, because we have to wipe out the British.